Welcome back to Fantasy Football Today. Got a fun slate of games coming up at 1 o'clock on CBS. The Jets and the Bills, that's a spotlight game with a fun matchup in the AFC East. You got the Ravens and the Steelers, big game in the AFC North there, as well as the Browns and the Bengals. Then you got the Jaguars and the Titans. Trevor Lawrence expected to play in that one, so it should be an exciting game there between two teams that are still trying to stay in playoff contention. Certainly the Titans looking like the leader in the AFC South. To talk about the Jets and the Bills now, it's Tom Spencer, CBS Sports editorial consultant, joining us live from Buffalo. He'll be in the booth with Jim Nantz and Tony Romo for the call there. And last time we saw these two teams meet in Week 9, it was a surprising Jets victory, and Zach Wilson was the quarterback for that game, Tom. So now we have Mike White under center. You're getting the impression that he might be able to keep the job for the rest of the season. And just talk about this Jets passing game taking on that Buffalo defense now without Von Miller.
Right, good point. Well, first of all, weather report, Jamie, wintry mix here in Buffalo. So the conditions are not easy. And by the way, I was just in New York yesterday and the weather was quite nice. So, the Jets are going to have some challenges here today. But, Mike White, hard to argue with success the last 2 weeks. The Jets have put up nearly 500 yards total offense in both games. He's been well over 300 yards. If he does that again today, it'd be the first time since 1985, Ken O'Brien, for a Jets quarterback, 3 consecutive 300-plus. The numbers here, outstanding. The Jets, in talking about him to us last night, nothing but praise. He's getting the ball out of his hands. He's processing the defenses very, very well. He's got confidence after last year. Remember, he had that 400-yard game against Cincinnati, and then shortly thereafter against these same Buffalo Bills, 4 interceptions. So when you have young rookie receivers like Garrett Wilson, and the Jets, great young roster, of course. A lot of young players, lead the league in rookie scrimmage yards, and Wilson's right there at the top of the list, second in the NFL in rookie receiving numbers. So he's got a reliable target, but as I stressed earlier, the weather here not expected to be good. Might not be a great day for passing, and the Jets are running the ball quite effectively. I'd look for them to do more of that today. Okay, so the weather could have an impact on guys like Corey Davis potentially and Tyler Conklin, maybe even Elijah Moore if they decide to throw him the ball. I like that you're bringing up Ken O'Brien, by the way. As a young Dolphins fan growing up, watching Dan Marino versus Ken O'Brien was always a lot of fun. You mentioned the run game there for the Jets. Let's talk about that situation because Bam Knight has been fantastic in the 2 games since Michael Carter was hurt and then missing the game, and now Michael Carter back. So how do you see this backfield shaping up against the Buffalo defense today with Bam, with Carter, Ty Johnson, James Robinson as well? Well, of course, they missed Breece Hall. Terrible injury there and a dynamic player, but they've made up for it. They've got a lot of depth at running back. Robinson's numbers have been down since the trade. His biggest total carries for the year was 13 against Buffalo several weeks ago. Numbers have been slowly trailing off. Michael Carter, in the game they played on November 6th, 12 rushes, well over 70 yards, and a touchdown. So he's been effective, but coming off being inactive last week with the knee. So as you point out, Bam Knight, undrafted, has been, a surprise to many around the league, but not to the Jets. He had a great camp this year. He's been a healthy scratch throughout most of the season, but finally getting his opportunity. And, only 3 running backs the last 2 weeks have gained more scrimmage yards than this man. And we're talking about Josh Jacobs, Samaje Perine, and Brian Robinson. So they have a lot of confidence in him. He was catching the ball effectively out of the backfield last week against Minnesota, Jamie. And as I said earlier, the Jets need to run the football today to be effective. They want to keep the ball out of the hands of Josh Allen. I would expect, Carter and Knight to carry the burden of the load. And as you pointed out at the top of the segment, no Von Miller, no Jordan Phillips, by the way. Of course, they lost Micah Hyde. So Buffalo's defense, through attrition this year, has slowly been, attacked, and they've lost key players. Will they be able to step up today in front of their home crowd? Remember, they haven't played at home since that amazing storm of 77 inches of snow a few weeks ago. This crowd is going to be fired up today.
Yeah, that's a great point. They lost that game, had to go play in Detroit. And so this game, the last time these teams met was the time that Josh Allen suffered the elbow injury, talking about injuries. And so he's kind of been, trying to figure out, I think, his game, and it's kind of been some up and down performances. So in terms of the passing game against the Jets, he struggled the last time, again, getting hurt later in the game. But how is he going to attack this Jets defense? How are we going to see, some other guys help Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs? Is this going to be maybe a Gabe Davis game? Are we going to see Isaiah McKenzie, Dawson Knox? Who stepped up in the passing game to help Josh Allen?
Yeah, good question. In fact, his last 2 games against the Jets, he's only averaged 222 yards passing. And yet in those two same contests, he's had 150 yards rushing. Now the Bills want less rushing from Josh and more passing. They want to keep him healthy. And as you see here, when he rushes the football, it is dynamic. He is a freight train running downhill. The Jets, of course, are going to come at you with 8, 9 defensive linemen rotating. They put a lot of pressure on, 5 sacks in the last game. So it's a little bit of a conundrum. I think, truthfully, Jamie, the Bills would like to run the ball more effectively, or even more effectively than they've been doing. They're averaging every single game this year. They've had over 100 yards rushing as a team. Only team in the NFL to do that. But of course, Josh Allen, carries a lot of that load. So I think, as far as who steps up, this was an interesting one to me. Gabe Davis still leads the league in yards per reception. But when you talk about third downs in the Bills, Diggs, McKenzie, and Davis have, between the three of them, caught 32 balls this year on third down. All 32 have gone for first downs. Buffalo sustains drives. They had 2 15-play drives last week. When they play at home, their last 8 games, it's 27 points or more every time. They are dynamic on this field. I expect Josh Allen, whose arm is feeling better and better every week, to still get some downfield throws against very good, young, aggressive Jets cornerbacks. But I think the running game for Buffalo is what they'd like to see get even better coming down the stretch.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that, Tom, because last week we saw the run game get going because of James Cook. And I know that Sean McDermott said at the beginning of the season they were going to build to something with him. Are they now at the point where they feel maybe more comfortable with him than they do with Devin Singletary?
Hard to say, but he is definitely on the ascent. 20 touches last week. 6 of those were receptions. Singletary only had 13 touches and all were rushes. But Singletary is a dynamic player, in the red zone. He had a couple touchdowns here in the game in January, late, to clinch the AFC East. Cook, they're gaining more trust in him every week as a rookie. Remember, his year got off to a very bad start. It's been a slow process, but they like him catching the ball out of the backfield. They like his slashing style as a runner. So it's a good mix. And then we'll even throw in Nyheim Hines as a good change of pace. So they have 3 guys that can threaten you. Again, Singletary's numbers don't jump off the page, but he's so effective down there near the goal line that he's very reliable there. So once again, weather's starting to change. AFC East matchup. I'll bring up for you historians the infamous snowplow game in 1982 with the Patriots and the Dolphins. You might remember that one, Jamie. I think running the football matters when it's snow, sleet, and rain, and these are 2 teams that are going to try to do that a little bit more coming down the stretch.
The wintry mix. This should be a fun game to watch on CBS with Jim Nantz, Tony Romo on the call, and obviously Tom Spencer in the booth with those guys. Tom, we appreciate your time as always here on FFT. Looking forward to that Jets-Bills matchup coming up a little bit later today. Check out all the action on CBS today as well as Paramount Plus. It all starts at 1 o'clock Eastern. Again, the big game in the AFC East, Bills-Jets, only on CBS.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.